Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history. Now previously I showed you as we began the cleaning process on Mary Craig Crawford's grave, the tragic grave of the young 18-year-old mother who died during childbirth and is buried with her baby in her arms. And we also started cleaning the absolutely beautiful and ornate headstone of her sister, Virginia Osborne Crook. So today on this video, I wanted to give you an update on these two graves. It's been a couple weeks since we started this cleanup process, and boy, is there an incredible difference already in these graves. It's still going to take more time for these graves to truly return to their original condition, or as close to it as we can get. But the D2, along with the rain and sunlight, will keep working until these stones look as clean as new. Of course, there are some things on them that can't be fixed, such as the damage here, the two broken pieces. But another thing I did not notice on this headstone were the two faces on the side of it. I actually did not notice that during the cleanup process. I didn't notice it until Dan pointed it out to me. But look at these two carved faces in the corner of this headstone. It's absolutely incredible. There's one over there, and this looks like a boy's face here. And there's another one on this side. You can see all this growth on this headstone is just kind of flaking off now as it's cleaned up. But let's take a look over here at Mary Craig Crawford's headstone, and the good news is I can read it better than before. The bad news is the stone is still just so damaged. This stone at some point in time was cleaned incorrectly. It's thought that it was most likely sandblasted, although it also looks like maybe bleach damage to me on this headstone. If it was sandblasted, then what they did was the sandblasting process would have taken this outer layer off, and it opens up the pores in the stones and leads to this kind of damage that we see today. Kind of the same thing with bleach. Bleach gets in there and crystallizes when it dries, gets into the pores and eats away at the stone. And as I've talked about before, of course, the D2 is harmless, but we've got all of this growth off of the stone. As much as has come off, still got some down there, and the stone is more readable, but again, we've got all this damage on here. So when the sun is in a better position, I'm going to have to come back out here with the flashlight, use a flashlight trick to try to read this. Right now it's being hit fully by the sun, which makes it a little bit hard to read, but definitely at the bottom down there, it says, "Encircled in her arms slumbers her infant." And we can read that very, very, very well. But we know where her husband is buried, so we're going to go find his grave today. He remarried and lived a full, long life in Columbus, Georgia, and is buried at Lynwood Cemetery. So we're going to go find her husband and his parents today. So we're going to be checking out two different cemeteries today. But I wanted to give you an update first on how these are looking so much better. And of course, if we come back over here, we've got her parents right over here. And that's going to be this impressive headstone right here. It's got the column on top, which is really cool. Also, this stone was made by the same stonemason, H. McCauley from Columbus, Georgia, as our ornate headstone over there, Virginia Osborne's headstone. Now this over here are these two young ladies' parents. Her mother, Elizabeth Cook, died October 25th, what is that? Is that 89? Yeah, 1889. No, that's got to be earlier than that. I think that's 1839. Wow, she didn't live very long either. Age 29 years. That's a very early grave out here. So 1839 for Elizabeth Cook, and also their father, in memory of our father. Look at that great carving and that great detail right there. I mean, this is absolutely incredible detail on this stone right here. This stonemason is obviously very, very good. So this is Major Osborne Crook, who died October 15th, 1851, age 55 years. Now, Major Osborne Crook and Elizabeth here, they had more children than just these two young ladies that are buried over here. So maybe we'll have to come back and try to find more of their children. I also, and I don't know right off, I should know this right off, but I bet Dan would know. See, he's Major Osborne Crook, and he died in 1851, so we know he wasn't a major in the Confederate Army. So he was a major in the United States Army, and I wonder if he was in battle. Maybe the War of 1812 or some of the Creek War, possibly. I don't know, but we need to figure that out. But for now, these two headstones look absolutely phenomenal compared to how it started. This is definitely preservation work on these two stones. That growth will damage them over the years. And we've already got the very fragile stone right there that's getting damaged. Maybe someday we want to save all of that writing that's on that stone. So this would be a good candidate for having a modern stone also placed here that at least preserves all of the detail that's on this original stone before it's lost forever. So maybe we can look at doing something like that in the future. But for now, let's go visit Mary Craig Crawford's husband and his parents. Okay, so we have made it to the Old Columbus City Cemetery or Lynwood Cemetery. This is where Mary's husband is buried, and this is an incredible cemetery. It's also a huge cemetery, so finding his grave is going to take just a minute. This cemetery was a planned cemetery when the city of Columbus was founded and laid out in 1828, I believe. And it's beautiful. So I've got a picture of his gravesite, and it's surrounded by a metal fence. It actually, I think I may have just found it. I think we may not have to walk too far. There's some cedar trees. I have spent very little time in Lynwood Cemetery as far as documenting it. I've walked through it multiple times, but as you can see, this is a huge cemetery filled with historic graves. And there are some amazing, amazing monuments out here. This fence kind of looks like the one in the picture, and this guy was pretty well known in his time. We have photos of him, and it's interesting to think about his first wife, who passed away at 18 in childbirth and is buried out in the Waverly Hall Cemetery, and we know very little about her. She's buried with his son. This is not it. This is not it at all. Look at this right here. Born in Talbot County, Georgia. Father, William H. Martin. Born Talbot County, Georgia, February 24th, 1843. Died Columbus, Georgia, March 6, 1916. Of course, we spend a lot of time in Talbot County, so neat to see that suddenly pop out, especially at the grave that I thought we were going to. So that wasn't it, but it is in a low metal fence like that. I see one other one that kind of looks like the photo over here, so maybe that's it. But this fellow we're going to see, like I said, we've got photos of him, and he's got his own Wikipedia page. He was a member of the United States government before he left. He resigned and became a part of the Confederate government. That's not it either. It's a large cemetery though, for sure. If you're ever in Columbus, Georgia, or come this way, I definitely recommend visiting this one if you want to see some impressive monuments. And I've got to say, I saw a lot of broken monuments in here when I was driving through before I started filming, And I'm kind of disappointed to see that. I think that this place in the local historic society should have the funding to be able to upkeep this and prevent graves from getting broken today. In previous years, Lynwood Cemetery was basically in an abandoned state, and it had almost gone to ruin at that point. And then the Linwood Foundation was formed, and Historic Columbus, and they keep the cemetery up very well, but I saw a troubling amount of broken graves when we were driving through. And I think it's a shame to continue to let historic graves be broken if it's possible to prevent that. Like I saw a tabletop grave that was leaned over really, really badly. And looks like it may, collapse at some point. And now is the time to step in and save it. Historic Columbus or Linwood, now is the time to step in and save a grave before it collapses all the way. So we got to do some more searching to try to find his grave. These are not the tabletop graves that I was referring to earlier that look like they are about to collapse, but this is another great example of these tabletop graves right there. They're still on the search, but there is a box tomb right there that the sides have already fallen off of, and it looks like it's in a state of almost collapsing. Found it. Took me long enough. I actually drove by it a moment ago. Didn't see it in the sea of graves out here. But there it is. There's the low iron fence. So this is going to be the Crawford plot. Now after this, we're going to go visit his parents. We have seen his first wife. And afterwards we're going to find his parents. So these graves are surprisingly new in here. It's 2006, 2002, 1997, 75, 1910. This must be a son. M.J. and S.A. Crawford, son of Martin J. Crawford, because that's who we're looking for, Martin J. Crawford. But he was born May 4th, 1881 and died June 23rd, 1910. How many hopes lie buried here? But what is this? This is... Martin J. Crawford, son of M.J. and A.R. Crawford, born July 28th, 18... A.R. Crawford. There are a lot... Okay, wait a minute. I think we found... Okay, I was going to say, there are a lot of Martin J. Crawfords in here. Maybe 18... What is that date on there? It's completely erased. Okay, so I'm getting it now. This is Martin J. Crawford, son of M.J. and S.A. Crawford. So he was Martin J. Crawford, son of Martin J. Crawford and Sally Allen Crawford, who's the wife of M.J. Crawford. So this must be his father right here, Martin J. Crawford, who was the son of Martin J. Crawford and A.R. Crawford. And that's going to be Amanda Reese Crawford. wife of Martin J. Crawford, born July 16, 1825, and died October 13, 1905. So this is the second wife. We've seen his first wife and his first son buried. Now we're seeing his second wife, who he spent a lot more time with because she was only 18. Mary was only 18 when she died. And he lived until 1883. He lived a full life after her, remarried, had more kids. So Martin J. Crawford, born March 17, 1820, and died July 22, 1883. Beloved with an Beloved with an, I don't know, I can't read that. What does that say? I'll put the camera on it. Mourned with an anguish for which earth has no expression and no consolation. So we have several photos of Martin J. Crawford, and he was relatively well known. So I've got some information from online. It says Martin J. Crawford was born March 17, 1820 in Jasper County, Georgia. He attended Brownwood Institute and Mercer University in Macon, Georgia. After studying law, he was admitted to the State Bar of Georgia in 1839. Crawford started his practice in Hamilton, Georgia, which is, of course, near where his wife is buried, and his parents are buried in Catala, Georgia. And Crawford was also involved with farming in Hamilton, Georgia. From 1845 to 1847, Crawford served in the Georgia House of Representatives. After moving to Columbus, Georgia in 1849, he served as a delegate to the Southern Convention at Nashville in May 1850. In 1854, Crawford was elected as a Democrat to the 34th United States Congress to represent Georgia's 2nd Congressional District. He was re-elected to 2 additional terms. After resigning the U.S. Congress, he was elected to the Confederate Provisional Congress. He organized the 3rd Regiment, Georgia Cavalry, in May 1862 to support the Confederate States Army. And after the war, Crawford became judge of the Superior Court of the Chattahoochee Circuit in October 1st, 1875 to fill a vacancy. He was reappointed in 1877 and served on that bench until he resigned on February 9th, 1880. The next day, he was appointed to a vacant position on the Supreme Court of Georgia and served on that court until his death in Columbus. Wow, so he lived a very interesting life. Lots of different stuff going on there, from serving the United States government to the Confederate government, and then back to the United States government. It's interesting to think about. We've seen his first wife, who died, again, just at 18 in childbirth. We're fixing to go see his parents. And it's interesting to see him buried here, the write-ups around him, the history around him. I mean, dude has his own Wikipedia page. I didn't see a mention of Mary Craig on there, who's buried in Waverly Hall Cemetery, whose headstone is eroding away. She feels left behind in his story, and I think that that's kind of sad. I see there's Henry Benning Crawford, son of Augusta Benning. So I guess this was tied into General Benning. Well, right there, we've got our answer. Augusta Benning Crawford, daughter of General Henry L. and Mary Howard Benning, wife of Reese Crawford. So kind of tied in with some big names in the Confederate Army. And there's Reese Crawford, son of Martin J. and Amanda Reese Crawford, October 29th, 1846 to May 7th, 1912. He was in the Confederate States Army from 1861 to 65. Young man, how old was he? If he was in the war from 61 to 65 and was born in 46, someone do some math real quick. He was pretty young. Anyway, this is an incredible cemetery here, Lynwood is. But we can't stick around here for too long because we have to go find his parents and see their incredible headstones. So let's get out there. And leave a comment down below if you want me to come do some more exploring of Lynwood Cemetery. And I see a lot of disrepair here, which makes me sad. It makes me sad. I've never noticed it before. It's probably because I'm more so involved in cemetery preservation now. But let's get out to Catala, so our search into the history of Mary Crawford, of course, led us to her husband. And now it's led us to the Rehoboth Cemetery in Catala, Georgia, where her husband was from. And his parents are buried here. But they are not in this historic cemetery that we're looking at right now. They are in a little family plot that, according to the history of Harris County, actually predates this cemetery. As you can see, the cemetery behind me, the Rehoboth Cemetery, is still used and has lots of modern burials and is very well maintained. But just off in the woods is the historic Crawford Cemetery, which predates this church graveyard. And it's absolutely an amazing little cemetery here. You can see the original entrance to the cemetery was over there. That's where the gate should be. Gate is, of course, missing. And for some reason, someone has taken a panel out right here, maybe to make access easier from the graveyard behind it. And it looks like there's a section of fence that was either broken or stolen back here. Well, let's start taking a look at some of these graves in here. These are amazing headstones, very tall and very early headstones. Here lies buried William T. Crawford. We loved him for his heart and his generous nature. We loved him for his great goodwill towards all. For within his breast rested no malice. But all our love, all our tears, all our efforts could not stay the hand of death. For he was cut down in the springtime of life. At the early age of 32, he died. 17th November 1850. Wow. What an epitaph on that one. William T. Crawford. These graves have incredible epitaphs on them. Look at this. First up here we have the Weeping Willow with a cemetery below it. I think that's a cemetery. Yeah, I think those are headstones, or that's a single grave. A headstone and a footstone, I guess, below it. These are amazing headstones. The subject of this epitaph, Miss Minerva D. Rutherford, was born December 25th, 1823, and died October 22nd, 1845, aged 22 years. A husband's fond affection has erected this stone to mark the last resting place of a devoted and lovely wife. Were I to attempt to praise, words would fail, and the stranger would gaze in unbelief. But her character demands, and justice requires me to say, she was amiable and affectionate. Her love for her husband and infant son knew no limit. In all the relations of life, her conduct would bear the strictest scrutiny. Yet her sweetness of temper and lovely disposition could not stay the hand of death. She was called from earth to heaven. And we have the stonemason, Madden and Adams from Columbus, Georgia. Wow, look at that. So she was a Rutherford. I wonder if she was originally a Crawford. Wow, they loved their long epitaphs here in the cemetery. Beneath this tablet has been buried the body of Pleasant H. Crawford. Just another young person here, just ripening into manhood. Every earthly pleasure was opening to his view. Prospects of brightness, prospects of brightest order were justly his, but death, regardless of the nearest human ties, has deprived a widowed mother of her beloved child. My God, these are so sad. And called brothers and sisters to weep over the grave of a noble and generous relative. He died on the 27th day of July 1844, aged 20 years. My goodness. Oh, look at this one. There's writing from nearly the top to the bottom. These are incredible, incredible graves here. What a pleasure it is to see these. I've seen these before, long, long ago. Of course, I didn't know the connection back then, but oh man, I forgot how impressive these were. By the partner of his joy and sorrow in life, this monument has been erected to the memory of Major Hardy Crawford. Interesting that he was Major too. He lived, respected, and died. What is that word? He lived, respected, and died. He lived, respected, and died, lamented by all who knew him. An honest, kind, humane, benevolent man, he greatly added to the happiness of a large circle of friends and a devoted family. He departed this life June 10th, 1839, aged 46 years. My goodness. Here lies our mother, born on the 27th of May, 1799, and died in Columbus, Georgia on the 7th of March, 1857. It's a much shorter epitaph here. Of her virtues, it is necessary to speak. To her family, they were known. To strangers, it is a matter of no importance. To strangers, it is a matter of no importance. Dear mother, farewell. May we meet thee in heaven. Wow. So I guess she's the widowed mother. This young man over here. Her husband here she passed away at 46 years old. My goodness. What a cemetery right here. What a cemetery. So they must have lived right near here. And they were all gone by 57. So these are all pre-Civil War graves, which, really fascinate me, as they are always the oldest, I would say, here, that we see, because this area, again, as I often say, wasn't settled until 1826 thereabout. So when we see these very early graves like this, it's always amazing to me. But what incredible epitaphs here, and what a journey this has been, starting with the young 18-year-old girl who died very young and is buried with her infant in her arms, to all these young people here that died, and the widowed mother on the grave. It's incredible. Very emotional cemetery right here, and I think that really comes through in these incredible epitaphs. So I hope you have enjoyed this video diving into this history. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on another adventure into history.